What does a husband usually do when he finds out about his wife's infidelity or that she is having an affair? Most people want to destroy the cheater as soon as possible instead of figuring everything out. I began to look for the true reasons why my wife paid attention to another man, and that's what I came to. I glanced at my wife Ingrid's phone and felt a wave of nausea. It was full of messages to someone named Will, messages one would send to a lover. My blood ran cold as I read them. She had made plans to meet him after work on days she claimed she had to work late. They had gone out for dinner and drinks and were clearly dating. She told him how good a listener he was and how much she enjoyed his company. He told her how beautiful she was. She mentioned how much she was looking forward to seeing him again. There were photos of them together, arms around each other, smiling. It seemed they had been seeing each other for a few months. This was my worst nightmare. How could she do this to me? I had been nothing but faithful. I opened her photos and scrolled down to see pictures of us from happier times. These happy memories now felt gut-wrenching. The phone pinged, and a message popped up. It was from Will. Room booked for Rome for May 26-29th. Can't wait. Oh my God. That's when she was supposed to attend that conference she had planned for. That was in 2 months. In 2 months. I look at the messages again. A sense of relief washed over me. They haven't had intimacy yet. They couldn't have. Oh Christ, but they were planning to, in Rome. Jack, have you seen my phone? I heard Ingrid say sharply from outside the room. I quickly shuffled some papers around before calling out to her. "I've found it!" I called out. I stood up and went to her. "It was charging in my office," I said with a weak smile, handing it to her, my hand shaking. "You have a message." She looked at me nervously. "Have you been snooping on my phone?" "No, of course not," I lied with a forced laugh. "Are you having an affair or something?" "Don't be ridiculous," she snapped, snatching the phone from me. But her eyes were full of nervous doubt. "Remember, I'm working late tonight. I won't be home until 9 p.m. You can have dinner without me. There are leftovers in the fridge." I went to kiss her, but she turned, so I kissed her cheek, and she left without a goodbye. I returned to my office and collapsed into my chair, feeling a deep sense of despair. This couldn't be happening. I began to stare at the photos on my desk of the two of us. We looked so happy. As I continued to look, I realized that these photos were from several years ago. I appeared younger, better dressed, and thinner back then. Those were the days when I worked for a large corporation, before I was laid off and became a finance blogger. I went to our bedroom and saw more photos. They were also from those times. I walked around the house and all the photos were the same. I returned to my bedroom, looked in the mirror, and my despair turned to anger. In the mirror, I saw what she saw. I was a mess. My hair was disheveled, my clothes were old and dirty. I hadn't realized how much I had let myself go. I lifted my t-shirt and saw the rolls of fat. Ingrid was repulsed by me. She had stopped loving me. That's why our bed life stopped. You can't be close to someone who disgusts you. Why would she love this guy? A terrible realization hit me. I had stopped trying. She would spend the day at the office, come home, cook, and clean while I stayed in my home office. No wonder she started seeing someone else, someone who would shower her with attention, someone like Will. My wife Ingrid and I had been married for 5 years and together for 8. We were a great match. We frequently went out together to restaurants, met up with friends, and took trips. Our bed life was amazing, the best I've ever experienced. We were planning to start a family. We both had successful careers. We were what you'd call high achievers. Ingrid still is. She now earns much more than I do. When I lost my job, I decided to pursue my dream of becoming a writer, so I started a finance advice blog. Ingrid supported me throughout. Although I made a decent income, it was just a fraction of what I used to earn. In reality, I could have made more. My finance blog was connected to Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. and my dream was to become the next consumer finance guru. I had thousands of loyal followers, but I could have done so much more with it. Instead, I had become lazy and unmotivated. Tears filled my eyes as I saw what I had become. Without intending to brag, I used to be good-looking and well-groomed. Women used to notice me, but I only had eyes for Ingrid. Now Ingrid had eyes for someone else. I was furious with myself. My laziness was going to cost me Ingrid. She had betrayed me because of my neglect, and we were heading toward divorce. Despite her betrayal, I still loved her. Then I remembered that she didn't have intimacy with Will, and I wondered if there was a chance to get her back. Did I want her to come back? Yes, I wanted to. She betrayed me because I betrayed her with my laziness and neglect. If I wanted her back, I needed to change. I needed to become who I was before, the one she loved. I had 2 months. If she had been intimate with Will, there would have been no turning back. When you have a blog, you often collaborate with other bloggers. I went to my computer, checked my followers, and reviewed my past collaborators. There were a few fitness and lifestyle bloggers I had worked with and occasionally offered free financial advice to. I quickly messaged one I knew who lived nearby. "Hey Nick, I was wondering if you could help me offline. I'm looking to lose some weight and get fit. Would you be willing to train me? I'm willing to pay for your time. I could also give you exposure on my blog by documenting my journey, including links to your blog and photos of us both. Best regards." Jack. Nick's response was almost instantaneous. "Hey Jack, sounds great. When do you want to start?" Nick: "Oh boy, this is going to be tough." "Thanks, Nick. I need to start today or tomorrow. I just found out that my wife is seeing someone else. I need help to get in shape to win her back, and I only have 2 months to save my marriage." Jack. Nick didn't respond for a while. My heart sank. I could handle it myself, but I needed a personal trainer to get quick results and be in shape before Ingrid went to Rome with Will. It seemed like my confession had made him ghost me. I needed to become the man she married again. I went to my wardrobe and looked at my clothes. There were many things I had forgotten about. I took them out and realized I wouldn't fit into any of them now. Then I looked at the clothes I usually wore, and they disgusted even me. They were full of stains and holes. I needed new clothes. I got some bin bags and threw all my clothes in them, even my underwear and socks. Tears ran down my face. Nothing excused Ingrid's cheating, but I had given her an excuse she could use against me if I confronted her. Even if it was too late, I should at least face it with my head held high. I returned to my computer and found Nick had replied, "Jack, mate, I am so sorry. I apologize for not replying sooner. I hope I didn't seem heartless. I was checking my schedule. Love the collaboration idea, but let's focus on you. Can you meet today at 3 p.m. in Ashbury Park so we can see what we're working with?" I quickly replied, "Thank you so much, Nick. 3 p.m. today in Ashbury Park sounds great. See you then." My heart leapt. I met Nick as planned in Ashbury Park at 3 p.m. Since discovering Ingrid's infidelity, my self-esteem and self-worth had taken a nosedive. Seeing how others perceived me made it even worse, and meeting Nick brought me close to rock bottom. Nick was extremely attractive with a well-defined muscular physique. Unsurprisingly, he had many female clients and fans. To make matters worse, he was genuinely nice. Any man would feel inadequate next to him. I spent the morning shopping, splurging on new clothes and getting a haircut. I tried to hold back since I hoped to lose a couple of sizes, but I had thrown out so much that I needed replacements to have something to wear. I also visited the tech store and bought a camera, background lights, a microphone, and a GoPro. When I started my blog, I intended to create a YouTube channel too, but although I created an account, my laziness caused me to abandon it. That was about to change. "Hey, Jack," Nick called to me warmly from a distance. Damn, this guy was good-looking and looked even more ripped in real life. Some guys would probably go gay for him. Nick then made a face when I got closer, and he saw I had noticed. "Hi, Nick. How are you?" "I'm so sorry, Jack. For everything and my reaction," he said guiltily. "That was really unprofessional of me." "Don't worry about it," I reassured him. "I know what I look like. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here. I'm not surprised that Ingrid is cheating on me." "Nah, mate, her cheating is on her, not you," he told me seriously with a lot of sympathy. "I'll be straight with you. You're out of shape, and I can't help you win her back, but I can help you get fit so that even if you can't win her back, she'll regret it, and you won't be on the market for long. How does that sound?" "That sounds great, Nick," I smiled. Nick's enthusiasm was contagious. "If we're going to do this, I need 100% commitment from you. We have a short time frame, but I know we can do this." "Hell yeah," I replied loudly, surprising myself with my own enthusiasm. "Yeah," Nick shouted, and we high-fived. "That's what I'm looking for. We're off to a good start already." "Hey, listen, Nick, I'm serious about this collaboration. I brought some equipment to film our training sessions. I want to document my journey and make sure you benefit from it too." "Jack, there's no need. You've helped me with my business for free in the past. I'm just returning the favor." "No, I insist. What I did for you was nothing compared to what you're doing for me." "Okay, only because you insist." "Great," I smiled. We headed to the car to grab the GoPro camera because Nick decided we should start with a run in the park. The workout was brutal. Nick wanted to stop several times, but I insisted we keep going. I barely managed to stumble around the park before Nick got me to do some weights and box with pads and mitts. "I'm impressed with your attitude," Nick said when we finished. "Ingrid should be impressed when you get home." I made a pained expression, and Nick immediately understood that she was seeing Will that night. "Jesus. I'm sorry. Look, we're going to do this 3 times a week, and I'll send you some yoga exercises for when we don't meet to help with your core. You should see some improvement in about 3 weeks. Are you good with that? It's going to be really tough. Also, don't do this for Ingrid. Do it for yourself. If you win her back, great. But if not, you'll still have your pride. I don't want you feeling like it was all for nothing. People get depressed from that." "Yeah," I panted, barely able to breathe, which made Nick laugh, but my expression showed I agreed with him. And Nick saw it too. This guy was good. "Awesome. We'll meet here at 3 p.m. in a couple of days." When I got home and showered, I noticed the dirty laundry was overflowing. I decided to make a big statement on this first day, so I loaded the washing machine and headed to the shops to buy ingredients for spaghetti carbonara. It was the meal I cooked for her the night we first made love, so I knew it was special to her, and I paired it with her favorite Italian wine. I might not be the one taking her to Italy, but maybe I could bring Italy to her. I waited until after 9 p.m. for Ingrid to come back. Eventually, my post-workout hunger overcame me, and I ate alone. I left her plate on the table, assuming she had dinner with Will. I spent the rest of the evening hanging up laundry, and then went online for advice on dealing with infidelity. It turned out Ingrid was having an emotional affair, leaving me to decide how to handle it. If I wanted a divorce, I needed proof, but if I wanted to win her back, I'd have to work for it. I resolved that my current plan was the best course of action, but if the affair became physical, that would be my breaking point. Nick also sent me yoga exercises, which he must have spent hours on. He was proving to be a true friend. Ingrid returned well after 10 p.m. I had gone to bed early due to the busy and emotional day. Half asleep, I heard her exclaim in surprise, probably at seeing the spaghetti carbonara. Then I heard her exclaim again, likely upon noticing the laundry. Drying. I wasn't sure what Ingrid was up to, but she wasn't in a hurry to climb the stairs. In the end, she got up slowly, looking worried, as if she was afraid to see something unpleasant. Later, I heard her enter the bathroom, where she engaged in her usual nocturnal activity, self-satisfaction. It usually upset me because it meant she didn't want to be intimate with me or even help me, but this time I felt relieved. This indicated that she still wasn't with Will. I was hoping she would be able to resist a little more. I woke up early the next morning and discovered the reason for her delay in getting back to bed. She had completely rearranged the drying clothes. I made breakfast for her and waited. Ingrid's words sounded uncertain, almost like a question. I felt her insecurity too. We ate in silence. Ingrid seemed worried. She wasn't worried about doubts, but perhaps wondering why I was being so kind, and if I knew about her and Will. "Thanks for the dinner and the laundry," she murmured. "I have to show you how to hang it properly. I'm sorry I had dinner with my colleagues yesterday, but for lunch, I'll take the spaghetti carbonara that you cooked. I tried it, and it was amazing. It's been so long since you've cooked this for me." When I kissed Ingrid goodbye, she turned her cheek as she now habitually did, though this time less so. Her reaction surprised me. As she left the house, I couldn't help but smile. She hadn't exactly returned to me, but it was a better beginning than I had dared to hope for. I began my day with the yoga exercises Nick had sent me, then reviewed my blog to select topics for recording YouTube videos. During breaks, I managed to finish washing the laundry and prep dinner for later. Ingrid's return at a usual hour caught me off guard. She seemed in a foul mood. "You're home early? I thought you'd be working late again," I ventured. "What does it matter?" she snapped, brushing off my attempt at a kiss. "This is my home too. I have every right to be here." "I'll start dinner," I offered. "What?" she snapped. "I'll start dinner. I found a nice Japanese recipe," I replied quietly. "Fine," she snapped again, though with slightly less anger, before suddenly exclaiming, "Oh, for heaven's sake, Jack, come here." I found her at the drying laundry. "If you're going to keep doing the laundry, learn to hang it properly. Get some hangers from the wardrobe." She proceeded to show me how to hang the laundry, scolding me as she did. I was getting confused. She was yelling insults at me while helping with the laundry. It didn't add up. Then her phone rang, and she suddenly looked terrified. "I need to take this call," she said hurriedly, disappearing into the bathroom and locking the door. I couldn't resist listening in, and I'm glad I did because I discovered the reason for her bad mood. "I told you not to call me when I'm with Jack," I heard Ingrid whisper angrily. "Are you still upset about the spaghetti carbonara? I had no choice but to eat it. Whether it was good or not isn't the issue. If I hadn't eaten it and just threw it away, Jack would have been suspicious. It might not matter to you, but it does to me. Anyway, I can't talk about this now. I have to go." And she abruptly ended the call. I couldn't help but cheer silently. I had my answer. She was clearly arguing with Will about the spaghetti carbonara I had made for her. You had to give it to Will. It takes guts to have an affair with a married woman and then get jealous of her husband doing something she appreciates. What a jerk. Score one for me. And my weapon of choice was spaghetti carbonara. From then on, I decided to make all her lunches. I opened the wine Ingrid and I had saved from the night before and poured 2 glasses. Ingrid might not have been in a celebratory mood, but I certainly was. After some time in the bathroom, Ingrid finally emerged, flushing the toilet and giving a dramatic display of washing her hands. Or perhaps she was washing her face because when she returned, her eyes were red, as if she had been crying. "Here." I offered her a glass of wine. "You seem stressed. Sit down and tell me about your day while I cook." Ingrid stared at me in surprise before really looking at me. "Did you get some new clothes?" "Yeah, I decided to overhaul my wardrobe and started working out," I replied cheerfully, feeling upbeat. "Oh," she said, taking a sip of wine with a concerned expression. "They look good on you." We had dinner in a tense silence. Ingrid's anxious look persisted and confusion crept in when I suggested she watch TV while I cleaned up. As we watched together, she clung to her phone with jealousy. but as the evening progressed, she relaxed and left it on the coffee table. Eventually, fatigue from her worry and confusion overcame her, and she dozed off on the sofa. I covered her with a blanket, then picked up her phone and began browsing through her messages. A smile involuntarily spread across my face as I read the latest messages. They were heated, with Ingrid threatening not to go to Rome with Will, which clearly made him back off. I reread the older messages more objectively and less emotionally. It was evident this was an imbalanced relationship, with Ingrid clearly in control. Will was footing the bill for their trip to Rome, but Ingrid seemed lukewarm about the whole idea, feeling things were moving too fast. I knew I could use this to my advantage. The next morning, I made breakfast again and shot a few more videos. After meeting Nick for my training session, I returned home to prepare dinner. Ingrid didn't come back until 8 p.m., claiming she had to work late. I knew it was a lie. It was written all over her face. I found it slightly amusing as I watched her pretend to eat dinner with me despite clearly having already eaten. By Friday, over breakfast, I casually asked Ingrid if she had plans with her friends for the weekend, suspecting she was actually seeing Will. "Not this weekend," she replied with her perpetually worried expression. "I have a ton of ironing to catch up on. I don't know what's gotten into you, but your help with cooking and laundry has been a huge relief." I offered, "I can take care of it for you if you want to go out." "No, I'll handle it. You've been doing most of the housework this week. I should contribute. Besides, you haven't written anything in your blog either. You should do that." "You still read my blog?" I asked, confused. It had been a while since she had shown interest in it. "Of course I do," she almost snapped. "I haven't written anything because I've been recording videos to upload on YouTube." Ingrid's eyebrows lifted in surprise. "You're finally doing that?" "Yeah. I realized I've been letting you down, and worst of all, myself," I confessed. "I've become lazy and needed to step up." I was certain a look of admiration crossed her face before she stood abruptly. "I need to go," she said, kissing me on the lips instinctively. Ingrid paused, realizing her action, then quickly turned, gathered her things, and hurried out the door. I saw Nick again on Friday. "Hey, Jack, how are you?" he asked tentatively. "How are things going between you and Ingrid?" "Good," I replied with a smile. But soon after, my emotions overwhelmed me and I started crying uncontrollably. "Jack, dude," Nick exclaimed with genuine concern. "What happened? Did she leave you?" I shook my head, tears flowing. "No, she kissed me today," I managed to say between sobs. "It was unintentional, like it was out of habit." Nick hugged me. "Jack, that's great news. Don't stop now. We've got to keep moving forward. Come on, let's get going." Later that evening during dinner, Ingrid complimented me, saying, "I liked your blog today. When are you going to post your videos?" "I've recorded about 5 of them, but they still need editing. Can I work on them tonight? I want to start posting soon." "Sure, go ahead. Can I see them?" "Absolutely," I said enthusiastically. "They're not quite ready, but you can be the first to watch." "I'd love that." As Ingrid watched the videos, her interest grew. "They're good," she said, sitting closer to me. "You just need to loosen up a bit and be less stiff, but the content is really strong." Ingrid, being knowledgeable about finance like me, didn't just praise as my wife. She would have been honest if they weren't up to par. While she watched the videos, her phone kept buzzing with messages. I was certain they were from Will. He must have been going through torment knowing she was at home with me. Meanwhile, I focused on editing the videos. Ingrid occasionally glanced at my screen and smiled, paying no attention to her phone until she drifted off to sleep on the sofa once more. Throughout the week, her demeanor had shifted from hostility to concern, then to awkwardness. For the first time, it seemed she was beginning to relax around me. I felt like I was making progress, but I knew there was still a long way to go. That weekend, our interactions resembled those of a couple more closely. We ran errands and did the shopping together. She appeared less ashamed to be seen with me. yet remained tense whenever we were out, constantly checking over her shoulder, presumably fearful of encountering Will or anyone else who might uncover her affair. I needed to confront her about what I knew, but the timing wasn't right yet. First, I needed to come to terms with it myself. The next week was almost the same as the previous one, except that now she kissed me on the lips every morning before leaving for work. Ingrid stayed late on dates with Will, justifying herself by saying that she was working late. But Thursday nights were especially late. It was obvious that she had been drinking and needed intimacy. I heard her satisfying herself again. "Damn it. Oh, damn it," she said softly. Then there was a tense silence in the bathroom until she drunkenly whimpered, "Oh, Jack, what are you doing to me?" She turned on the shower and I heard her crying. Deep down, I wanted to comfort her. But that would mean that I knew about her affair. It took all my willpower not to approach her. Later, she climbed into bed guiltily. All the efforts I've put in over the last 2 weeks have borne fruit. I was getting closer to my goal, but I still needed to talk to her about Will. Ingrid wasn't the only one who made me happier. The next morning, I noticed that my trousers were looser and my t-shirt was tight around my chest. I couldn't resist taking off my shirt to look at myself in the mirror. Although the belly was still slightly overhanging, it had become noticeably smaller. The muscles began to appear. Nick said I'd start noticing the results in 3 weeks, but it's only been 2. When I met Nick that afternoon, I had to tell him, "Hey Nick, check this out," I exclaimed as I lifted my t-shirt. "I can't believe I've already started toning up." "Whoa, dude," Nick responded, clearly impressed. "I owe you big time. Maybe if I stick with it, I'll get a physique like yours." "Nah," he replied confidently, lifting his own shirt and flexing his abs. "You've got a long way to go for that." "Jerk," I laughed. "But seriously, Jack, I'm impressed. It's not easy to look in the mirror and decide to make a change. It takes real strength to push yourself and make those changes. It's inspiring." "Oh, come on, Nick," I said, not entirely buying his motivational trainer talk. Nick placed his hand on my shoulder and locked eyes with me. "Dude, you have to believe it. It's inspiring. I can see how much progress you've made, and it's all because of you. I just showed you the way, and honestly, I thought you might give up. Every time I pushed you harder, you responded. I'm really proud of you, man. Really proud," he said, sounding deeply moved. I just grinned foolishly. "Honestly, how long did it take to build a physique like yours?" "You can't, dude, I'm sorry," he replied. "Not that I don't believe you could do it, but we have different body types. What we can do is get you the best physique possible for you. How does that sound?" "Sounds great," I replied with a smile. "Awesome, new goal. Let's get to work." I think that was the day I regained my confidence and sense of self-worth. Later that evening, Ingrid arrived home a bit late, carrying bags of groceries. She looked troubled. "Let me cook tonight," she said, kissing me on the cheek, before handing me a beer and tossing her phone onto the counter. "You've been working hard lately. Why don't you spend some time on your videos? They're really taking off at work. Everyone is really impressed." As I served dinner, I noticed her phone hadn't been touched. After dinner, we sat in front of the TV, and Ingrid seemed distant. Throughout the week, she had gradually moved closer to me until tonight, when we sat with our legs touching. "What's wrong, Ingrid?" I asked firmly, sensing her restlessness. "Nothing. It's just my feet hurt. I had a presentation with potential clients today and was on my feet all day," she replied truthfully this time. I remembered she had worn uncomfortable high heels to work. Getting up, I fetched some moisturizer. "Give me your feet," I instructed, patting my lap. "Jack," she muttered incredulously. "Come on," I insisted, surprising myself with my assertiveness. Ingrid complied, and as I began massaging her feet, she closed her eyes and sighed. "Oh, that feels so good." Suddenly, her expression turned to panic, and she hurriedly left the room. Confused, I followed her upstairs to our bathroom, where she had locked herself in, sobbing. "Ingrid, are you okay?" I asked gently through the door. "Don't worry, I'm just being silly. You go watch TV. I think I'll go to bed," she replied, her voice trembling. When your cheating significant other tells you not to worry, that's when you worry. I went downstairs, found Ingrid's phone, and checked her messages. There was only one new message from Will, with a kissing emoji that simply said, "Miss you." No matter how many times I saw those messages from Will, they still made my stomach turn. But their communication seemed to be tapering off, becoming less frequent, and Ingrid's responses seemed less committed. Maybe I was seeing what I wanted to see, but it appeared that Ingrid wasn't as invested in Will as before. I tossed her phone onto the coffee table and tried to distract myself by editing some videos on my laptop, but my heart wasn't in it. Reading Will's message to Ingrid reminded me that despite things improving between us, there was still someone else in our relationship. I took a deep breath to steady myself and went to bed. In the bedroom, Ingrid looked like she was already asleep. I brushed my teeth and slipped into bed beside her. She was breathing softly, turned away from me. I lay there, my mind racing. I knew I would soon have to confront Ingrid about Will, and that day was rapidly approaching. I don't know why. Maybe I just needed to hold someone. With all the thoughts racing through my mind at that moment, I felt vulnerable. So I turned towards Ingrid and put my arm around her. Immediately, I felt her tense up and a sense of dread washed over me. I realized I had misjudged the situation. She still had strong feelings for Will. It was too late. She was going to leave me anyway. Just as I started to withdraw my arm, she suddenly took hold of it, leaving it in a limbo between being around her and not. I froze, and Ingrid seemed caught in indecision, as if I had caught her off guard. I thought I heard her whisper to herself in frustration, "This isn't fair." Then, she leaned back into me, guiding my arm around her and holding it tightly. As we lay together for the first time in months, spooning, Ingrid whispered, "This is nice," and squeezed my arm even tighter. "Ingrid, you're hurting me," I whispered back. "Sorry," she laughed softly, loosening her grip slightly but still keeping hold. Ingrid had taken possession of my arm and didn't seem inclined to let go until morning. Ingrid's proximity led to the inevitable result, which is below the belt. This created awkwardness between us as neither of us knew what the other wanted or intended to do. "I'm sorry," Ingrid finally said, and there was a sadness in her voice that I hadn't heard in a long time. She reached behind my back and touched my leg. "I'm not ready for this yet." "It's okay," I whispered back. To be honest, neither do I. When I woke up the next morning, I found that Ingrid was not with me. When I came to my senses, I heard that she was busy in the bathtub again. I felt a pang of sadness that I wasn't the one giving her pleasure. Then I was stunned when I heard her start crying after that, saying, "Oh my God, I'm so confused." Have you ever experienced those days or weeks when everything seems to fall perfectly into place? Well, the following week was exactly like that for us. After months, almost a year, we spent the weekend feeling like a married couple again. Our intimacy grew deeper, though not physically. Ingrid gently traced my chest under my t-shirt, seeming unsurprised by my new physique. Even our weekend chores became enjoyable simply because we did them together. As wonderful as the weekend was, the following week surpassed it. Out of nowhere on Monday, I received a message from Il Farinese, a prestigious restaurant near Ingrid's workplace. It was renowned for being the area's most exclusive spot, with reservations booked months in advance. Knowing Ingrid's passion for all things Italian and the restaurant's 2 Michelin stars, I was aware of her longing to dine there despite the hefty price tag. The restaurant contacted me seeking financial advice, typical of the "I scratch your back, you scratch mine" ethos in the blogging world. When they asked what I desired in return, I didn't hesitate to request a table for two that week. Their response regretted they could only offer Thursday lunch at 1 p.m. Did I mind? Not at all. Thursday at 1 p.m. sounded perfect to me. Take that, Will. Beat that. That evening, while we were cleaning up, I told Ingrid the news. "Hey, are you available for lunch on Thursday?" I asked casually. "I'm sorry, I don't think I'll have time. Things are really hectic for me right now," she replied, sounding almost apologetic. Hectic. My foot. She was probably planning to have lunch with Will. "Oh," I said, sounding disappointed. "I actually managed to snag a table at Il Farinesi." "Nice try, Jack," she said irritably, clearly not buying it. "No, really. They consulted me for some financial advice and offered a complimentary meal as thanks." Ingrid stared at me intensely for a moment, then turned away, leaning on the counter, clearly overwhelmed with emotions. "Jack, I'm not in the mood for games. I'm under a lot of stress right now. I just can't handle any more nonsense." I figured she was referring to dealing with a husband trying to reconcile and a boyfriend complaining about her not spending enough time with him. I stared at her in wide-eyed astonishment. I had no clue how conflicted she was feeling. It seemed like she was grappling with so much indecision that she was wound up tightly, ready to explode. "Look," I said, pulling out my phone from my pocket with the confirmation. Her expression shifted from anger to disbelief in an instant. "How?" was all she managed to say. "Like I mentioned, they approached me for financial advice and offered dinner in return. Should I cancel?" "No," she replied quickly. "I'll rearrange a few things." Her face betrayed a mix of emotions. She chewed her lip briefly before pulling me close for a kiss. Our lips parted, tongues meeting, for the first time in what felt like ages. "Thank you," Ingrid whispered breathlessly, embracing me tightly. I could feel her trembling as she struggled to rein in her emotions. "I'm sorry," she apologized. "I should have said yes right away. You've been making such an effort for me lately. I need to make more time for you." Hearing those words, I felt a surge of emotion. For the first time, she expressed genuine gratitude toward me. Oh, God. I needed to confess that I knew about Will that week. The next day, I decided to review my earnings from my blog and videos. After putting in considerable effort into SEO, my blog and videos started climbing up the ranks. This resulted in higher visibility on Google and YouTube, leading to a significant increase in advertising revenue. Although my income wasn't extraordinary, it was now substantial enough to make a meaningful contribution to our household finances. This boosted my self-worth, relieving me of the feeling that I was relying too much on Ingrid. On Thursday, I made a spontaneous decision to surprise Ingrid at her office just before 1 p.m. and take her out to a restaurant. I hesitated, unsure if it was a wise move. There was a good chance I might encounter Will there. He might recognize me from my blog and videos if he followed them. I had no clue what he looked like. Il Farinesi was an upscale venue, so I dusted off my old suit and squeezed into it. I was grateful that I'd lost enough weight to fit into it again, even though it was a bit snug around the waist. As I looked at myself in the mirror, it felt like I had traveled back in time to my days in the office, days that were unsatisfying and that I had sworn never to return to. I entered the building where Ingrid worked and walked up to the reception desk. "Hello, I'm here to see Ingrid Cooper," I said to the receptionist, who looked a bit bored. She was a woman in her late 20s with blonde hair neatly tied back. She wore a light blue uniform that matched her blue eyes. "Of course, sir. And your name?" She glanced up, then did a double take. "Oh my God. You're the guy from the YouTube videos. Ingrid's your wife?" she exclaimed excitedly. "Yeah," I replied, feeling a bit shy. "Ingrid's my wife. One moment, I'll give her a call and let her know you're here." She entered Ingrid's name into her computer and put on her headset. "Hello, Mrs. Cooper. Your husband is here in reception," she said. her face showing surprise before she turned back to me. You really surprised her. She'll be down in a minute. I struck up a conversation with the receptionist that quickly turned into playful banter. She was attractive, though not exactly my type, but it was enjoyable. It had been a while since I flirted with anyone, even before meeting Ingrid, and I felt a bit rusty. According to Rebecca, the receptionist, I was somewhat of a minor celebrity around the office, especially among the women. I couldn't understand why, but as some women passed by on their lunch break, I overheard whispers like, "Isn't that the guy from the videos? And isn't his wife Ingrid Cooper?" Then I heard someone say, "If I had a husband like that, I wouldn't cheat on him." Instead of boosting my ego, it felt like a blow to the stomach. It painfully reminded me of what Ingrid had been up to. Suddenly, tension filled the reception area. Rebecca stopped talking abruptly and glanced awkwardly to her left. I followed her gaze to a group of guys who were staring directly at me as they walked by, except for one who looked terrified and pale. Not the subtlest way to give yourself away. So this was Will. Goodness, he looked so young. He must have been 5'6", maybe even more years younger than Ingrid, which explained why their relationship seemed so imbalanced. My focus on Will was interrupted by the ping of the elevator, and there was a collective gasp as Ingrid emerged. Her eyes widened in surprise at seeing Will and me standing just a few feet apart. Will noticed Ingrid and quickly exited through the door and onto the street. "Jack, what are you doing here?" Ingrid asked, deciding to face the situation head-on. "I came to surprise you," I replied. "I hope you haven't been waiting too long," she said with a smile, leaning in to kiss me deeply on the lips. "Look at you, all dressed up. Did you do that for me?" she teased, straightening my tie. "Yeah, thought I'd make an effort for once," I said, pulling her into an embrace. "Rebecca has been keeping me company." "Has she now?" Ingrid's tone hardened, her eyes shooting daggers at Rebecca. "Seriously?" My wife was having an affair with a younger man, and now she was jealous because I flirted with the receptionist. "We should get going before we miss our reservation," she said, taking my arm possessively and leading me out of the building. At the restaurant, there was a bit of commotion among the staff when I gave my name, until Mr. Farina, the owner, approached. He had silver hair and olive skin, looking every bit the stereotypical old Italian gentleman. "Mr. Cooper," he exclaimed warmly, shaking my hand with a strong Italian accent. "It's wonderful to see you." "Good to see you too, Mr. Farina," I replied, with a slightly bewildered smile, wondering when he would release my hand. "This is my wife, Ingrid." "Ah, the lovely Ingrid. Mr. Cooper, you're a fortunate man to be married to such a beautiful woman," remarked Mr. Farina as he kissed Ingrid's hand, causing her cheeks to flush. "Mr. Farina certainly knows how to charm," I thought to myself. "But please, Mr. Cooper, call me Angelo. Friends don't need to be so formal." "You can call me Jack," I replied, smiling. Angelo then called out loudly, and soon 2 glasses of Prosecco appeared for Ingrid and me, who both smiled in anticipation. It seemed we were in for the VIP treatment. We were introduced to the head chef, Angelo's younger brother Antonio, as well as several other members of the Farina family who worked between each course. Lunch was exquisite. We didn't even need to order. A variety of dishes arrived, and Ingrid politely declined some wine to ensure she wouldn't return to the office tipsy. I was grateful I had taken the bus. "Angelo, the food was incredible," I complimented him. "Please convey my compliments to Antonio. He's an amazing chef." "Thank you so much," Ingrid exclaimed. "Italian cuisine is my favorite, and this is by far the best I've ever had." "I'll review those figures you sent over and get back to you next week, Angelo," I promised. "Grazie, Jack. Your help means a lot," Angelo replied gratefully. "No, thank you for this unforgettable experience." "Don't be a stranger, Jack. You've got VIP treatment with us any time." We left the restaurant and walked back to Ingrid's office, her gripping my arm tightly. both of us smiling after an unforgettable experience. Upon arrival, she turned to me and said, "I'm going to be in so much trouble, you know. That was a 2-hour lunch. I'll have to work late because of you." "I'm sorry," I muttered. I lost track of time. Ingrid bit her lip. "Don't worry, it was worth it," she said, pulling my head down for a long, passionate kiss. "Thank you for thinking of me. I'll see you tonight." I watched as Ingrid walked back into the building and turned to see Will. His expression was crestfallen. Witnessing his girlfriend kiss her husband so intensely must have hurt deeply. I wondered if he would confront Ingrid about it later that afternoon. Ingrid didn't get home until nearly 8 p.m. that evening, looking exhausted. "I'm sorry," she apologized. "I wasn't lying when I said I was busy, and you did take me out for a 2-hour lunch, so you're partially to blame." Ingrid seemed unhappy, though. Something had clearly happened, but I couldn't figure out what. "Are you okay? Did you get into a lot of trouble?" I asked. "A bit. I'm just tired." "Can we cuddle on the sofa for a while?" she asked. "Of course," I replied eagerly. Holding her in my arms felt so reassuring, knowing she needed me again. "I love you, Jack," she whispered as she snuggled closer. My heart leapt with joy, tears welling up in my eyes as I held her tighter. But I couldn't say it back just yet. I needed to tell her about Will first, unsure of what consequences awaited us when I did. It's been about a month since D-Day, opening day. I felt great, I looked good, and Ingrid came back to me. I could tell that because she started coming home on time and greeted me with a kiss every day. She even volunteered to do the laundry while I was cooking, even though I knew she didn't like the way I hung my clothes to dry. I offered to buy a dryer because I earn more now, and we agreed. Other signs were that she was hugging me while watching TV or when we were kissing, and she seemed noticeably less stressed. In the evenings, she talked on the phone only to look at job ads. One of the unresolved issues was that we didn't resume intimacy. I knew I had to admit that I knew about Will, even though I wasn't completely sure if she was still dating him. I decided to raise this issue that Friday, wanting to devote the whole weekend to discussing this issue or considering the possibility of one of us moving. I had a plan, but it fell apart before I could implement it. I was in the shower after training with Nick when Ingrid suddenly came in and for some reason sat on the bed. I went into the bathroom and was surprised to find her there, and I couldn't tell who was more stunned, me seeing her or her seeing me coming out of the shower. The phone slipped out of her hands and she gaped when our eyes met. We stood in silence for a while before she could say, "Oh my God, Jack." A mischievous smile appeared on her face. She was clearly pleased with what she saw. She crawled up to me and there was a palpable tension between us. Her lustful gaze told me what she intended to do, and my own desire left me unable to resist. "Why didn't you tell me about this?" "What is it?" she asked before kissing me. Then Ingrid pulled the towel off my waist and hugged me. "Wow," I breathed out. "I missed it," she murmured with a smile. "Why am I the only one in front of you like this?" I asked her. Ingrid listened to me, but she couldn't even imagine what was waiting for her next. "Don't you understand, Ingrid? This is your punishment. Punishment for cheating, for lying, for spending evenings with Will, for those love messages to him, for planning to go to Rome." She screamed in frustration when she was denied the pleasure. "To hell with it, Jack! To hell with it!" she screamed. I didn't say anything, completely rising to my knees. I felt incredibly powerful. "You've seen my body, Ingrid. Yes, it's mine. You admire it, but it's mine, not yours. I created this body for myself. My blog is just for me, and for no one else. You can have it when you deserve it, but now I'm taking yours." I got into a waiting position. She looked at me as if she was begging me to continue. But she was terrified of my motives. "Look at me, Ingrid," I demanded, looking down at her. Do you like it? Yes, Jack. It's been so long. Did you imagine Will would do this to you? What? She gasped, her eyes wide with horror. Like you... Oh my God. She began to protest, but there was no stopping me. I know everything, I whispered as she whimpered. About Will, about the messages you sent him, about the plans you made. But I want to hear it from you, Ingrid. I want to know the truth. We lay still, looking at each other until Ingrid began to sob. You're a jerk, Jack. You're a jerk. I rolled to the side and sat down next to her when she turned away. How? How did you find out? What is it? She asked softly. I checked your phone, Ingrid. You're invading my privacy, you idiot. She spat angrily, looking back at me. Scammers have no right to privacy, Ingrid, so I won't apologize for that. The first time it was unintentional. Your phone was unlocked and I saw a message from Will. Ingrid didn't answer and turned away again. I need you to tell me everything, Ingrid. No more falsehoods. I have to understand why. Why did you betray me? I'm sorry, Jack. I'm so sorry, she cried. Are you sorry for cheating or just sorry you got caught? I countered. Ingrid paused, then turned to face me. I regret cheating on you. I'm truly sorry for that, but I swear I never slept with him. I looked at her tear-streaked face, filled with apprehension. I believe you, I assured her. If you had, it would have been over between us. You realize that, right? Ingrid nodded silently. If you had gone to Rome, would you have slept with him? I think I might have had to, but I didn't want to go with him. Everything was happening too fast and I felt out of control. I mentioned wanting to go to Italy, and the next thing I knew, he had everything booked. Honestly, I was panicking about it and didn't know what to do. Thank you for being honest, I said sincerely. Most people who cheat weave lies and reveal the truth bit by bit. Knowing you would have slept with him if you had gone shows me you're being honest. I'm relieved I'm not going, she admitted quietly. I wanted to go with you, but... She let her words trail off. I told her you had stopped loving me. Tears streaming down my face. Admitting that your wife no longer loved you is incredibly painful. I don't blame you, I got complacent. You became more like my mother than my wife. I let myself go, became overweight and unattractive. I lost love for myself. I'm so ashamed, but why did you cheat? Why couldn't you talk to me? I didn't intend to cheat, really, I didn't. I just needed someone to talk to. When you quit your job to start your blog, you were so passionate and full of ambition. You had so many plans. But after seeing you worn down by your job, it was refreshing to see you passionate about something. Then, I don't know what happened. You stopped trying. You stopped helping around the house. I wasn't thrilled about you gaining weight, but I could have dealt with it if you were making progress on your blog. Instead, you spent all your time in your office doing nothing, and yes, I fell out of love with you. What went wrong, Will? It didn't have to be Will. It could have been anyone. After we went for drinks one night after work, I ended up alone after everyone had left, crying. Will saw me and offered a shoulder to cry on, listened. We met again, and he listened again. Most of the time we met, we talked about you and how my dreams were on hold because of yours. So, you didn't have feelings for him? Ingrid shook her head. We kissed a few times, but I didn't really enjoy it because I wasn't in love with him or interested in him romantically. I felt like it was something I needed to do for him. I wanted to end things with him several times, but it had been so long since we were intimate that it felt nice to be wanted and desired, so I got carried away. You led him on, I told her plainly. Oh God, I'm a terrible person, she sobbed, covering her face with regretful hands. What changed? You did. You changed. You threw out all your old clothes, all of them. You bought a whole new wardrobe, started working out, and lost weight. You have no idea how shocked I was when I got home and found you had cooked that spaghetti carbonara and done the laundry. By the way, I'll be doing the laundry. I hate how you hang it up." "I noticed," I replied with a nervous laugh. Ingrid chuckled softly. "I really appreciated it, though. It was a pleasant surprise. For the first time in a while, you made me feel special. You used to do that all the time. You started packing lunches for me to take to work. When I returned home, you cooked dinner. Then you began working on your blog and making videos. Your passion returned, and I started feeling proud of you again. It was wonderful to hear everyone at the office praising your videos, although I'm not thrilled about all the female fans you're attracting. That's when my feelings for you reignited. It was agonizing. I felt so guilty and trapped that I couldn't breathe. I wanted to be with you, but then I realized how much Will cared for me, and I felt terrible about that. I could see the pain I was causing him every day, how devastated he looked when I told him I wanted and needed to go home to be with you. Are you still with him?" Ingrid shook her head. "I ended things with him after we went to Il Farinese. That's the real reason I was late. He came into the office and cried at his desk. Now everyone in the office hates me. I guess I deserve it." "I'm not surprised he cried. He saw us kiss when we got back to your office," I reminded her. "He saw his girlfriend, or who he thought was his girlfriend, kiss her husband in a way she probably never kissed him. Oh, God, I've made such a mess of things," she cried. "Wait, how did you figure out who he was?" "The same day I met you at your office when we went to Il Farinese. It wasn't difficult to piece together. He gave himself away by avoiding eye contact with me and looking so frightened. And you, how terrified you looked when you saw both of us in reception." "How long have you really known?" "Just over a month, I think." "Why didn't you say anything?" "I wanted to win you back, but I needed to work on myself first. I didn't want to risk losing you. After seeing the messages between you and Will, I had to confront myself. I didn't like what I saw in the mirror," I admitted, my voice trembling with emotion. "I thought I had lost you, and it was all my fault." Ingrid cupped my face in her hands and kissed me gently. "I love you, Jack. I'm so proud of you." After a brief period of uncomfortable silence, "Do you still love me, Jack?" Ingrid asked sadly, clutching the bed sheets. You've hurt me, Ingrid. I want to love you, but your infidelity hurt me deeply. You didn't have to cheat, but you did." Ingrid began to cry again, burying her face in her hands. "I'm so sorry, please don't say it's over between us." "We're not over," I assured her, struggling to maintain composure. "I want to love you again. I know I'm not blameless in our marriage issues, and my behavior has hurt you too, but the betrayal is hard to accept." "What do you want to do?" she asked nervously. "I want us to start dating again and seek marriage counseling. We have a lot of trust issues to work through. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I can be intimate with you until we resolve them. But that doesn't mean we can't show affection and care for each other. You'll need to reassure me a lot if you want us to rebuild. If I ask to see your phone, you'll need to give it to me. If you work late, you'll need to let me know when you'll be home, and be on time." Ingrid nodded sadly, in agreement. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes. You've won me back. You can't imagine how much it means to have someone do that for you, so I'm going to demonstrate it by winning you back," she said resolutely. "I want you in my life, Jack. I want us to return to how things were. If dating and being intimate with you is what it takes, then count me in for the long haul. I don't think we can go back to how things were, but I believe we can forge a new path, perhaps even better than before. We both made mistakes. Marriage counseling will help us with that." I picked up Ingrid's phone from the floor and handed it to her. "It's getting late and I'm hungry. Why don't you order some pizza and then you can join me in the shower? Tonight I want us to stay in and watch a movie together on the couch." For the first time since we had been together, Ingrid smiled happily. "I would love that." As I headed to the bathroom, guilt washed over me and I turned to Ingrid. "I'm sorry for what I did during our intimacy. I had a desire to punish you, but I crossed a line." "I love you, Jack," she replied. "I'll keep saying it even if you don't say it back." When we took a shower together. Later, I knelt down in front of her to please her, as an apology for my previous behavior during intimacy. Kissing her, feeling her next to me was more pleasant than during our previous intimacy. That evening we enjoyed pizza and beer while watching a silly comedy. The film was inappropriate because Ingrid was hugging me tightly. When it was over, we kissed again, and I made her feel good. We talked and kissed nonstop throughout the weekend. The following week we started marriage counseling, where both took responsibility for their mistakes. "What are your goals in the consultations?" the therapist asked. "I need to sort out my trust issues," I confessed. "Divorce is not an option. I want to rediscover my love for Ingrid." Hearing this, Ingrid burst into tears. "I love Jack very much and I want him in my life," she confirmed. "I will always regret what I did, and I will not bear it if it happens again." The counselor noticed that we were sitting together, holding hands as we spoke, and remarked that it was refreshing to finally have a couple where both partners genuinely wanted their marriage to succeed and were equally committed to working through their issues. We attended sessions both together and individually. I had the most individual sessions because I needed to address several personal issues. During these sessions, the marriage counselor asked me probing and personal questions, which helped me realize that deep down, I did love Ingrid, but my feelings of being wronged had caused me to suppress and struggle to express those emotions. To aid us, the counselor suggested some trust-building exercises to do at home. I was relieved and happy to see Ingrid enthusiastically participating in these exercises. The counselor also aided Ingrid in overcoming her feelings of shame and guilt by explaining that it's natural to feel that way in the short term, but if those feelings persisted, they could harm their relationship. This shifted the responsibility to me, and through tears, I expressed my forgiveness to her. It was a transformative moment. A weight lifted off my shoulders as I instinctively embraced Ingrid, and we both cried together. Even the counselor shed a tear, recognizing how this act of forgiveness marked a significant breakthrough and strengthened our bond. As our relationship progressed, my trust in Ingrid grew, symbolized by her phone. Initially, I checked it daily without asking, but gradually I began seeking her permission, which she appreciated as it demonstrated respect for her privacy and trust in her. After some time without checking, she eventually asked me to look at it. However, as I reached for it, I found myself unable to proceed. As we continued our counseling sessions, we encountered two challenges. Before each session, the counselor would inquire if there was anything on our minds. However, something bothered me throughout, particularly when Ingrid mentioned after an intimate moment. "Ingrid, you mentioned to me that when you talked to Will about me, you discussed putting your dreams on hold while I pursued mine. What did you mean by that?" Ingrid withdrew her hand from mine, avoiding eye contact guiltily. "You know how much I love everything Italian. I've always dreamed of living in Italy, maybe just for a year. Truth is, when I said I was working late, I wasn't just with Will. I was taking Italian lessons. I was serious about making my dream come true. If I ever left you, it wouldn't have been for Will, but to live in Italy. I was planning and even considering a transfer through my company, which has an office there." I buried my head in my hands, stunned by this revelation. "How does that make you feel, Jack?" the counselor asked me. "Ingrid, is learning Italian and living in Italy really important to you?" I asked. "Yes, it's the one thing I want most, besides having children." I stood up and paced around the room. I felt excluded. Ingrid had a dream but never shared it with me or involved me in it. She could see I was upset. I took a deep breath. It hurts, Ingrid. You never mentioned this. Not since the day we met. Tears welled in my eyes. I think this hurts more than your infidelity. There was something important you wanted to pursue, but you never shared it with me. Ingrid, do you understand why Jack is upset? The counselor asked. She nodded, tears streaming down her face, and grasped my hand again, meeting my gaze. I'm so sorry, Jack. I've worked so hard to regain your trust, and now I've ruined it again. In your dreams, where did I stand? If I had left you, not at all. But before our troubles began, you were there with me. One reason I supported your decision to leave your job for your blog was because I thought I could achieve my dream too. But then you stopped pursuing yours. When did you plan to tell me? I don't know, Jack. I guess I never thought it would happen. It was just a dream. And when our problem started, I thought I had nothing to lose. Do you still want to move to Italy? And you want me to go with you? Of course, I adore you. I want to be where you are now. Coming to your house every night, watching you cook and enjoying your meals, and then cuddling up to each other on the couch in front of the TV. It makes me feel safe and brings me more happiness than I ever could have imagined. I took a deep breath. Ingrid, you helped me make my dreams come true, and your dreams are just as important to me. If you want to live in Italy for a year or two, then I think we should do it. But please don't ever hide your dreams from me again. Ingrid looked at me incredulously, covering her mouth with her hand. Oh my God, she whispered, and then exclaimed, Oh my God. She jumped on top of me and we started kissing. Our consultant cleared his throat. I'm sorry, they interjected, reminding us where we left off. Ingrid got off me and we both looked like confused teenagers caught off guard. I usually don't approve of shouting during sessions, but this time I'll allow it. Thank you for bringing so much joy to this room, Jack. I don't often see such happiness. I am so grateful to you, Ingrid excitedly said with tears of joy in her eyes. I love you so much, Jack. Later that evening, when we returned home, we finally made love. It was our way of expressing our love for each other, and in the end I finally said those 3 words that Ingrid had been dreaming of hearing. I love you. The next challenge was more easily overcome. Ingrid suddenly grew distant again. Naturally, my mind went to the worst possible scenario. Was she cheating again? I thought we had moved past this. After 2 weeks of uncertainty, I decided to confront her. Ingrid, we need to talk, I insisted through the bathroom door. Just a moment, Jack. I need to talk to you too, she called back nervously from inside. Her shaky voice left me puzzled. She emerged slowly from the bathroom, looking pale and unwell. Are you okay? I asked, concerned. Yes, I'm fine. More than fine, she replied weakly, managing a faint smile. You don't seem fine. That's because I've been feeling sick. Sick? You should see a... I started to say before she interrupted me by placing a finger on my lips. I think I'm pregnant, she disclosed, leaving me dumbfounded. That's why I've been acting strangely lately. I suspected it, and when my period was late, I was sure. I've been experiencing morning sickness, which pretty much confirms it. How? It's not morning, I blurted out stupidly. You were there, so you should know. This is what happens when you punish me. She attempted a weak joke with a smile. And morning sickness can happen any time of day. At that moment, she appeared small and fragile. I felt a strong instinct to shield her. I enveloped her in my arms and held her tightly, murmuring, I'm sorry, unable to find more words. Sorry? For what? Aren't you happy? She asked anxiously. It's just the way it happened. Of course I'm happy. I love you, I managed to say, my thoughts scattered. I had been about to confront her about something she was hiding, only to discover she was pregnant. I felt foolish, stupid, and ashamed for doubting her. "We'll do a paternity test," she assured me, looking at me with certainty, mistaking my bewilderment for doubt. "I promise this baby is yours. I haven't been with anyone else since you first asked me if I was the sugar in your coffee, which was quite a bold line, especially at work." "I never said that. I asked if you took sugar in your coffee, and it got me into trouble when someone reported it to HR. You did say it." "I didn't." I cut off the argument with a deep kiss. I tasted the sickness in her mouth, but it didn't matter. I just needed to kiss her. The subsequent pregnancy test only confirmed what we both already knew. "Well, that's unexpected," said our marriage counselor with a smile. "Congratulations. It's good to see the baby is indeed yours, which isn't always the case." "We're going to do a paternity test," Ingrid announced unnecessarily. "Ingrid, we don't need to. I know the baby is mine," I objected. "No, I don't want any lingering doubts in our marriage," she said, holding my hand firmly, as if afraid someone might take me away. "I know exactly who I've been with, and it's been only you for the past 8 years. Jack, you're the one, and the best I've ever had." "What about your dream, Ingrid?" the counselor asked. "Didn't you want to live in Italy?" "That dream will have to wait." "I have a better dream here," Ingrid said wistfully, patting her stomach and kissing my hand. "Why?" I asked. "We can still go. We just need to postpone it until after the baby arrives." "Really?" Ingrid asked hopefully, and I nodded. "Of course it's your dream," I assured her with a kiss. Despite my assurances, Ingrid insisted on the paternity test, which confirmed what we already knew. I was the baby's father. Still, I struggled with how the baby was conceived. "Let's leave the past behind us," Ingrid told me. "It was a rough year, but we have so much to look forward to." Looking back, she was right about the paternity test. Not that it erased any doubts. There were never any doubts to begin with. But it did validate the trust between us and allowed us to move forward. After everything we had been through, it seemed like our marriage had grown stronger. Did that mean I was happy Ingrid had cheated? No, definitely not. Was I proud of my part in our problems? Absolutely not. Did I wish none of it had ever happened? Absolutely. But despite all that, we were becoming a family, making plans we'd never considered before, and both living for each other. Ingrid faced consequences at work for the dramas of the past months, receiving a severe reprimand and a verbal warning from HR. She pleaded for Will not to be punished and disclosed her pregnancy, reassuring them that the baby was not Will's. I believe her remorse, commitment to avoid further issues, and the pregnancy spared her from harsher punishment, though it did affect her career. Nevertheless, her pregnancy brought a shift in perspective. Home became her priority, and reduced workload and flexible hours suited her new focus on family. I chose to pursue exams enabling me to provide financial advice, aiming to offer affordable services to small businesses. Banking on the popularity of my blog and videos, I saw an opportunity to earn enough money for us to relocate to Italy. Ingrid gave birth to our beautiful daughter, Julia. Italy had always been close to Ingrid's heart, and we enjoyed 3 unforgettable years there after she returned from maternity leave and transferred to her company's Milan office. Working from home was a blessing. I could spend ample time with Julia without sacrificing my productivity, even if it meant working late into the night after everyone else had gone to bed. We returned home so that Julia could start school, and Ingrid was pregnant again, this time with a boy whom we named Marco. Ingrid has always had a love for all things Italian. We decided that we wanted our children to attend school in England. Ingrid admitted that the reality of living in Italy exceeded her dreams, but she was ready to return home. Ingrid became dissatisfied with her career and expressed a need for change. I suggested that she could work for me in my growing financial advice business. Initially, she started part-time managing accounts and even writing blog posts for me. She was highly qualified, and this change allowed her to step away from the stress of the rat race. She didn't transition to full-time work until Marco started secondary school. Ingrid had transformed from the woman I married, but in a positive way. The independent, career-driven woman I fell in love with was now a devoted mother who found happiness and contentment in our home life. Living in Italy had allowed her to feel more fulfilled, preparing her to settle down. We became a complete family, and my love for Ingrid had never been stronger, reciprocated equally by her. We never dwelled on that particular year again. It was too painful. In Ingrid's words, it was just a single rough patch amidst many good years, not worth revisiting.